The number one song right now in the country, whether you're looking at iTunes or Spotify or Billboard, is from an unknown artist, unknown until 10 or 12 days ago. He goes by the name of Oliver Anthony, and it is the new working class anthem. It is a protest song against DC corruption and politicians who are draining the rest of us dry. It is not only an incredible underdog story. I'm a musician as well. I pay attention to what's happening in the music world, and I've been noticing the rise of independent musicians, but I've never seen anything like this, where an artist goes from literally unknown, virtually unknown, and in less than 2 weeks, he's got 18 of the top 100 songs on iTunes, as well as the number one song, the number two song. He's got thousands of people showing up to his concerts just overnight. Most of these songs were recorded on a cell phone, not even produced or anything. And on YouTube, he's got about 29 million views on just one video alone. So it's not only an incredible story, but it is a sign of just how pissed off people are. People who can't seem to get ahead no matter how hard they work. And there's a lot of economic wisdom in the song. Oliver Anthony did not graduate from high school. He's got a GED, but he is no dummy when it comes to what's happening in the economy. And I want to give you a breakdown of that. But first, let's check out the song. It's called Men North of Richmond. And yes, that is referring to the DC politicians.
I've been selling my soul, working all day, overtime hours for bullshit pay, so I can sit out here and waste my life away, drag back home and drown my troubles away. It's a damn shame what the world's gotten to for people like me, people like you. Wish I could just wake up and it not be true, but it is. Oh, it is living in the new world with an whole soul. These rich men north of Richmond, Lord knows they all just wanna have total control. Wanna know what you think, wanna know what you do, and they don't think you know, but I know that you do, 'cause your dollar ain't shit and it's taxed to no end, 'cause the rich men north of Richmond.
So the song goes on to talk about suicides of despair and the misuse of welfare. And in a couple of my favorite lines, he is referring to how politicians care more about minors on an island somewhere, of course, referring to the Epstein Island and all of the politicians and princes and celebrities who joined him there for God knows what, versus politicians caring about the miners and the everyday blue-collar working class folks who keep the country moving. It's real, it's raw, and you can feel it. So who is Oliver Anthony? He was formerly a factory worker, and recently he bought a plot of land in Virginia. He is living in a trailer with a tarp on top, he says. And even though he's been offered multi-million-dollar record deals, he's not interested. He wasn't looking for fame. He was looking just simply to make a human connection. And he was speaking from the pain of his own life, dealing with depression and struggles and addiction and looking for meaning. And he started recording music in the last year or two, putting out some songs on TikTok and YouTube, songs that he just recorded on his phone. And he started getting this response. People were saying, your songs are helping me. They mean something to me. Please don't stop. And so just a few weeks ago, he had, a literal come to Jesus moment, and had been struggling with drinking and addiction, and really decided to commit himself to doing music and to having a purpose in his life, a purpose of connecting with people through his music. And to say that he has succeeded is a bit of an understatement. This song has resonated deeply, not only with Americans, but with people around the globe. Factory workers in the UK and Sweden, or in Africa, or in Australia. Lots of comments from Australia. People in Canada, and everyday people, farmers and truck drivers, and people who feel like they are working hard for too little pay, too little appreciation, and that they can't get ahead no matter what they do. And this song literally came out of nowhere. Oliver Anthony, it's not like he was doing a lot of marketing. There wasn't like this brilliant marketing strategy behind him. People just started sharing the songs. There were a lot of more conservative commentators who were sharing it, but it has gone way beyond any particular one audience. And as Oliver Anthony says, he's not a political person. It's not about the right or the left. It has been a uniting of people from all kinds of backgrounds who feel underappreciated, overworked, and they know that something is wrong. One of the themes is that the people in charge, the people we have elected, the supposed leaders, whether elected or unelected, and we've got a few too many of those unelected leaders right now, that they don't care about us. They exist to divide us. Their only real motivation is to get elected and to stay in power and to use their position to profit for themselves. As the song says, we are taxed to no end, and that is the truth. A lot of people don't know that we didn't have a federal income tax until 1913. Any taxes before that point were temporary, and there was like a Civil War tax, but the federal income tax wasn't started until 1913, and it was supposed to be, I think, 8%, and again, temporary, of course. As time goes by, more and more taxes are collected from us in more and more ways. We've got sales tax, income tax, property tax, payroll tax, 100 other little taxes, and the more taxes we pay, the more taxes get wasted. Another theme is that the dollar is losing value, or as Oliver Anthony says, the dollar ain't shit. And this has to do with inflation. And I believe that it is absolutely intentional. People think of inflation as the price of things going up, but if you really break down what causes it, it's typically the inflation of the money supply. We get more and more dollars chasing the same goods and services, and then the dollar is devalued. It takes more and more dollars to buy the things that we want, the things that we need. And the people who benefit from this are those with assets. So if you've got homes, if you've got, stock market portfolio, if you've got real assets in the world, then your assets are worth more and more dollars. So it is a hidden tax that the rich and the powerful institute on the poor and the powerless. And it is the people who are living paycheck to paycheck and who can't seem to afford, to buy a home or to make sustainable progress on an many investments, they are the ones that are hurt the most by inflation. And if you notice what has happened recently in the last few years, we had the pandemic, and there were all kinds of policies put in place that shut down the small business. The small business person went out of business or struggled to stay afloat, while you had the typical billionaire actually doubling their net worth in just a few short years. I mean, really crazy. And people act like, oh, that was just an accident. Like, come on. I don't think so. So the reaction to the song has been really, really significant in how it has rallied so many people in such a short time. Adam Taggart of the Wealthy On channel called it the anthem for the fourth turning. I don't know if Oliver Anthony knows what the fourth turning is. It was a theory or a book that was written in 97. It's been discussed by a lot of economists and leaders. I've seen Ray Dalio and Tony Robbins discuss it in videos, and it describes a recurring generational cycle in American history, particularly in the Western world. And according to the theory, historical events are associated with recurring generational archetypes. Okay, don't tune me out yet. It's actually quite interesting. So according to this theory, we go through these phases in history. We go from this high where things are good and there's a lot of cooperation and agreement about the societal order. According to the book, the last time we had this high was really at the end of World War II. And then we see an awakening where people start to question the existing order. And, we saw in the 60s, we started having protests, the 60s and the 70s, and the hippie movement and the Vietnam War and the protests. And then we go from there to an unraveling where the things that used to work are really not working anymore. And then eventually we go to a crisis, a full-on crisis where populism and public consensus starts to override the institutions because nobody trusts the institutions anymore. And according to the book, in about 2020, we were going to reach kind of the height of this crisis. And that is really what we saw, that public trust started absolutely breaking down. Social cohesion started breaking down. We had the pandemic. We had all of the riots and protests. Crime has been on the rise. And then we've seen businesses break down as well, and supply chains, etc. People are pissed. And I think that is the power of the song, is it gives voice to that pain that people have. Public tolerance for insider trading and all the ways that our politicians enrich themselves, it's over. And people are realizing it's like no matter who we put in the White House, we are in pain. And then we see government and corporations just working hand in hand, or we see the military industrial complex. We see the pharmaceutical industrial complex, big tech, which has recently been renamed the censorship industrial complex. We see government working hand in hand to curtail rights, to censor people, and to gaslight people. People flying in private jets to Davos to talk about how the rest of us need to stop traveling. One of the things I've seen a lot this week is people are disgusted with the response to the Maui fires. And while the White House has really sent very little aid, I mean, a lot of the government aid that's going on is really just blocking the efforts of the locals, just getting in the way. And meanwhile, oh my gosh, there's another, $25 billion proposed to go to Ukraine again. No shade on Ukraine. There's a lot of pain there too. But sending more and more money off to the war machine seems to have only fueled that pain as well. People are tired of disaster capitalism where fires and earthquakes and 9/11, these incidents are used, if not to transfer assets, then to transfer power and to institute more tracking and tracing and a loss of personal privacy and rights. We see blatant corruption and rules for thee, but not for me. And people are so tired of corruption being called out by independent journalists and the honest journalists who are left mostly independent. And yet nobody goes to jail. Nothing ever really happens. And we see Wall Street and bankers and the government absolutely in cahoots with each other. And I think we really saw an acceleration of all of these things during the pandemic. And we saw taxpayer dollars go to develop vaccines, which were then mandated on us. And then the pharmaceutical companies walked away with the profits and paid kickbacks to the scientists in the public health institutions. None of this is going down. People are becoming more and more aware of what is happening, the control, the lack of support, how we are being taken advantage of by our own government. We are living in a broken time. We are living in a time of crisis. And even if I'm not in crisis, even if you're not in crisis, a lot of people are. And there's too much wealth inequality for this to continue being a healthy, cohesive society. And I'm hearing that even from billionaires saying, this is out of control, that people have to be able to support themselves or society breaks down. So what we've been seeing is a breakdown in mental health, a breakdown in physical health, a breakdown in social cohesion. And I'd like to I'm not somebody who likes to focus on the negative, even though I think it's so important to recognize it, to call it out. Like, no change can begin until we understand the problems. And for myself, what I've realized in the last year or so is that, I want to know what the problems are, but then I want to focus on what is possible. I want to move forward in a way that empowers me. And really for the last year or so, there's this message that's been resonating in my head that there are 4 things that are needed. And I realized, I was like, oh my gosh, this is what is happening in this whole Oliver Anthony story. And the first thing is we need to return to each other. We are born to be connected, and this song is connecting people. It is uniting people together and making them feel like they're not alone. And when the song says, they don't think we know, but I know that you do, it makes us all feel more understood. Oliver's been connecting with other people, not only connecting them to each other, but connecting himself to other people through his music. His life was really in a downward spiral until just recently. He was going to work, literally, as the song says, going home and just drinking every night and not living out of purpose, not living out of possibilities. So the number 2 thing is to return to ourselves. And he is doing that, returning to himself, watching out for his own well-being, for his health, spending time with himself and with people that he trusts, recovering from addiction, recovering from depression, and not sinking into these habits that were keeping him in this downward spiral. He decided to do music because that was something that was giving him purpose and meaning. And third, returning to nature, returning to Mother Earth. And I think it's one of the things that's so powerful about the main video that I played the clip at the beginning is it's this man who is singing in the woods. He's on his plot of land. He has, he used to be a factory worker, but in recent years he moved from North Carolina to Virginia, bought this plot of land, was planning to have some livestock. I don't know if he's going to have time to start his farmer career. His music career is going pretty darn good, but he has returned to nature. And it's one of the things, if you go and watch any of his other videos, a lot of times, he's sitting in the trees or by a creek or with his dogs and just enjoying that connection with nature. And he's got some real critiques about the internet and how the internet is is, making us crazy and dividing us and not contributing to our peace of mind at all. And number 4, returning to God. You may think higher power or creator, whatever name you want to give God. And Oliver is looking to follow guidance from his higher power, and it's having a pretty big impact so far. Solutions are not going to come from politicians. It's going to come from communities, from friends, from people coming together and maybe creating new systems that we haven't seen yet that make the systems that we're being guided into obsolete. The solutions are going to come from us. It's going to come from people working together, from people standing up to some of the things that are clearly not working at all. And ultimately, I think we could all take inspiration from Oliver Anthony that he was feeling completely burned out and depressed, but he listened to his gut. He listened to his guidance, perhaps divine guidance, if you will, and he committed to something. He made changes. He decided he was going to do this thing. He started up a side hustle, started doing some TikTok videos, started a YouTube channel, started posting some songs that he just recorded on his cell phone onto iTunes. And maybe he hoped he would have a little side stream income. Maybe he was just doing it for personal connection. But either way, he broke his habits. He broke the patterns that were not working for him. And he has become literally the #1 artist right now. I do feel a little bit sorry for the 18 other artists who are not on the iTunes list because they got pushed out. Well, better luck next time. I want to leave you with a short video from his last live show. Everybody's got this song memorized. Check it out. Let me know what you think of the song. Were you familiar with it? What do you think of Oliver Anthony? And by the way, I did not introduce myself. I am Kate Phillips of Total Wealth. I used to be a financial writer, but now I'm creating content and programs really outside of the Wall Street box, outside of the 2 typical financial advice that we are given. And I encourage you to like, to subscribe, and I'm also going to pin down on the comment along with Oliver Anthony's song. You can sign up and get a 22-page guide, Breakthrough to Abundance, the 4 reasons why you're stressing over money and how to break the cycle forever. It is really my purpose in life to give people hope, to encourage them and let them know that just like Oliver Anthony, you can feel stuck, but you can break the pattern, break it in your mindset first, in your spirit, and start taking some small steps that can lead, well, maybe you won't become the #1 music artist in the country, but there is always something that you can do to change your circumstances. Have an awesome rest of your day. Remember, you are powerful, you are prosperous, and you are free. Bye-bye.
Not be true, but it is. All it is, living in the new world, with an old soul. It's Richmond, North of Richmond, Lord knows they all just wanna have total control. Wanna know what you think, wanna know what you do, and they don't think you know, but I know that you do, 'cause your dollar ain't shit, and it's taxing no end.